Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty, and dear batchmates. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to welcome you all to another enlightening edition of the Conversation Series, a series of expert talks organized by the Ahmedabad University, engaging thought leaders and experts for a conversation around youth contribution to the globe. Today's session promises to be an insightful exploration into the realms of leadership and self-management, as we are delighted to host a distinguished guest, Mr. Ravi Kant. With nearly 5 decades of corporate experience spanning various industries, Mr. Ravi Kant brings a wealth of knowledge and wisdom to our platform. He has spent 15 years at Tata Motors, where he was the CEO, managing director, and later vice chairman of the board. Prior to his time at Tata Motors, Mr. Ravi served as a director of consumer electronics at Philips India and has also held senior positions at renowned organizations such as LML Ltd, Titan Watches, Kinetic Engineering, Hawkins, and Hindustan Aluminium. Educated at Mayo College, Ajmer, and holding a B.Tech honors degree from IIT Kharagpur, Mr. Ravi Kant furthered his academic pursuits with an MSc in Management Techniques in Industry at Aston University in Birmingham, UK. Beyond his corporate and academic achievements, he is deeply committed to the realms of education and health. Furthermore, his dedication to societal well-being is demonstrated through his chairmanship of the advisory board at Akhand Jyoti and his involvement with innovative startups in the cancer care field like Carcinos in India and med therapy in the US. In today's insightful event, Mr. Ravi Kant will engage in a profound conversation with Professor Ravi Miglani, Professor of Practice of Management at Amrut Mody School of Management. Together, we will dwell into leadership lessons and art of managing oneself, team, and tasks. We anticipate an enriching dialogue that will not only benefit the academic community, but will also provide actionable ideas that have the potential to impact the world positively. So, without further ado, let us extend our warmest welcome to Mr. Ravi Kant and express our gratitude for his presence at this esteemed gathering. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, Asta, for the introductions. And thank you again to Mr. Ravi Kant. Since my name is Ravi and your name is Ravi, it might be poetic so that we address each other as Ravi. Is that okay with you? Or Mr. Kant is better?
Okay.
Okay. So welcome, Ravi, from Ravi. The introduction has shown you how much experience and insights Ravi has gained over the last 50 years working in such well-known organizations as Tata Motors and Titan and Hawkins and many others. So we will get to talking about the leadership insights that are there in the book that you see on the screen. And the book is, you might have seen, the book is outside as well. There is a counter there if any of you are interested. If Mr. Ravi Kant impresses you enough in the next 45 minutes, you might want to buy a book and he will sign it for you. So we'll get to talk about the book. But I think for someone like Ravi, who spent 50 years gaining insights across so many locations and so many countries, so many companies and so many countries, let's hear a bit about your journey, Ravi, before Tata Motors. We'll spend a separate block of time on Tata Motors because you did amazing things there as well. But how did your journey progress until you got to Tata Motors? And I'm sure our students here will have a lot to learn about that journey. So a brief bio of yours until Tata Motors.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's quite embarrassing to talk about oneself and one's journey. But now that you posed the question, let me see how best I can answer. I started my career, as we mentioned, from Hindustan Aluminium Corporation, then went on to Hawkins Pressure Cookers. It's a small company, but I think the leading edge of marketing thinking and market research and all that kind of thing, and I'm talking about 50 years ago. It set the standards of marketing, and whatever I learned in marketing is really on account of Hawkins is pressure cookers, I mean, so to say. And Brahm Vasudeva, who was the chairman, managing director, was an amazing guy, and from whom I learned so much. Along with that, I learned how to do business honestly. I mean, that was one of the great learnings. How to keep ethical standards while you are growing your business. And because of I was still very young then, I could see that it is a tough journey, but a journey worth taking and not compromising on that. So, of course, we face many things, whether it is a capital issue and somebody wanted something and it didn't happen and then it got delayed by 2 years and things like that. So it was a tough call. So I did learn that kind of thing. Then I went to Kinetic Engineering, which was a short stint in Pune, about a year and a half. And then I went on to Titan Watches. Again, Titan Watches, because I was in Pune and I was well settled, my wife was posted there also. And suddenly a call came, and that here it is, new organization from Tata starting, kind of a startup. It was a startup. So I felt so far I've worked in 2-3 companies where the company is already there and I've kind of participated in that. So here, Titan was a whole white sheet of paper exercise. Means you are trying to form the own strategy, research, and all that kind of thing. And that is what was quite amazing about it. I was heading the sales and marketing department there. And we turned the whole concept of sales and marketing of watches on its head. Whatever was being done by HMT, HMT was the dominant fellow, 80% of the market share, and mainly in mechanical watches. We took some very risky, what you call, say, decisions. That time, the country was dominated by mechanical watches, and there's a huge queue for mechanical watches, and bedding, shedding everywhere. It was HMT, HMT, HMT. But we tapped into one consumer's trend, which was already happening. And that was people were wanting to have fashionable watches. And that need was being met by smuggled watches. And we tapped into that, and we took a very seminal decision that we will be, because there was a lot of discussion whether we should be in mechanical and quartz watches or only in quartz watches. But quartz watches fitted in very well with the fashion thing and ability to wear a watch at any point in time you want. In mechanical watches, you have to wind the watch and then. So we took that risk and Titan started. And as I said, whole lot of concept, like whether it was uniform, these are small things, but make a big difference, like uniform pricing across the country. That time was the time of sales taxes, and sales tax, because it's a small volume, high value item, smuggling was very rampant from one state to another. But we took the risk, we bought an all India price. Excise people were against, a lot of people were against, internal organization was also against it, but we took and it worked very well. HMT watches were being distributed through big distributors, big guys, very powerful guys. We said, we want to go straight to the consumer. So we started retail, direct retail. We said, okay, we started opening our showrooms, things like that. We had very young people own the showrooms and all that. Advertising was very unique also. Everything was there. And then, as you know, we tapped into a need and we were amply rewarded. As you know, after several years, HMT watches don't exist anymore. And Titan is the undisputed this thing. It brought a whole. So this is one learned that if you tap into a trend at the right time, you can reap enormous benefits. So that's what I learned. And also this thing which is there leading from the back is Xerxes Desai was the first MD and he conceived of this. He led from the back. And the kind of humility he showed, the kind of comradeship he showed, the kind of this thing he built, he trust in the organization. So I would say also a lot of lessons I learned was from him. Then from then I moved to LML Vespa. LML Vespa, I had to move from Bangalore to Delhi because of family reasons. And therefore I wanted a job in Delhi. And LML was not the place I should have been because it was not, its reputation was not very good and all that. And it was doing very well. It started off extremely well, and then it just fell down the cliff. It was making losses. But as I said, I was not joining LML, I was going to Delhi. And that was the primary thing. But I said, maybe I'll be there for a couple of years and then carry on. But I stayed on for 5 years. So there I learned one of the concepts here is owning the business. So I said, the book is about 3 legs. It may be a repetition for some people who have heard my lecture in the 2 hours ago. The book is about 3 things. What do I do with myself? And each has 3 aspects. How do I deal with the team? How do I deal with the tasks? Simple stuff. And in deal with myself, it's open mind, assume ownership, and be detached. These are the 3 aspects of how should I be in leading from the back. So the concept of assume ownership really came to the fore in LML because it was a company which was going downhill, making losses. It was going to be closed down, shut out. And I said, what if it shuts down? Managers will go and get some jobs and all that. What about the workers? 6,000 workers means 6 into say 5, 30,000 people whose roji roti was this thing. So I felt, oh, that where this whole concept sharpened. I was not director sales and marketing. I assumed I am owning this company. What if I'm owning the company? And that's the whole thing then started, that I cannot let this happen. And therefore started doing things, started working like that. And finally, of course, it was a happy ending. We turned the loss into a profit, and we got that time Bajaj Chetak. Those who are of that vintage will understand Bajaj Chetak was the dominant guy, and 85% of the market share, like HMT, Bajaj Chetak was the two-wheeler, and 85% market share, and all very strong, very distant. But we managed to get from 9% to 32% market share. You can understand SAE, it was a huge benefit. So one learned that lesson. Then I joined Philips again for a short period of time. There also the ownership concept, because I was there for only 10 months. And in 10 months, we did some remarkable things. We grew 10 times in 10 months. And that is for a particular segment of consumer electronics, namely the television. So that again, that thing got sharpened, both ownership and detachment. Because I knew there that I was going to leave the company in 3 months' time. And I had said so to my bosses in Amsterdam that I'll be leaving the company. But he told me, no, you do the 5-year plan and then leave it. So we did the 5-year plan, we changed the face of the company, and then I left. So somebody could have said, yaar, main chhod ke ja raha, abhi kya karne ka? But with the sense of detachment is where I would say sense of detachment came to the fore. And then I joined Tata Motors. Now, Mr. Tata, I had several conversations with him. And
Sorry, can I interrupt you there?
Okay.
We will talk about Tata Motors in great detail.
Okay.
But from this pre-Tata Motor phase, can I pick on a couple of things?
Sure.
One thing which I think our students would want to learn is we have a career development center where our university helps find employment opportunities and careers for our students. And one of the things I hear a lot from them that students want to work in established companies and don't want risk. You took amazing risks, like Titan was hardly a company when you joined, and you kind of took risks and made it into the dominant watch brand, or LML. It was a company going downhill and you joined and turned it around. How does that feel at that time? In hindsight, you did great in all those places. But how do they take risks like that? What is the safety net, so to say?
No, I don't think you need to talk about safety net. And when you're doing things, your mind is so, this thing is charged, you want to do something, you want whatever job you've got, forget about the opportunities, whatever opportunity is there, whatever job you got to see that how can I make it the best possible? How can I make the job or this thing is called unequal to anybody else? How can I make a difference? You forget about the job itself, but take anything. It may be a small thing. But if you begin to think, what difference should I make? What if anybody else was doing my job, what will he do? And what am I going to do? What am I bringing to the job? If you go with this kind of intent, you can make a whole difference, whichever job you are doing. And therefore, once you make the difference, you suddenly become very confident. Oh, मैंने ये कर दिया. उसके बाद से then you are wanting to bigger things. So in life, most of the time you don't choose opportunities. Opportunities come, opportunities go. Your life puts you here, puts you there. For many circumstances are there. A family, this thing, reasons are there, other reasons are there. So you go from one company to another company, those who are going, or sometimes you stay in the same company. But life throws you challenges all the time. And my suggestion or submission is, whatever thing you have got at that moment, take it as a challenge, take it as an opportunity, take it as what difference can you make, huge difference that you can make to it. You don't have to wait for your boss to tell you what to do. I have not, for example, to be honest, I have not, bosses have not told me what I should be doing. I am setting myself targets. Mr. Tata never told me that, Ravi, you should go and do this, you should go and do this. I'm setting my own targets. Because if you're setting big targets for yourself, a boss will say, oh my God, he's doing more than what I expected him to do. And therefore, if you are getting breakthroughs and all, you start getting respect from your seniors, your bosses, you start getting more confidence of yourself, what to do, how to do in different situations, different circumstances.
Okay, so that's one. And the other bit that I wanted to pick up early on in your career, you said you stuck to no compromises, stuck to an ethical way of doing things. The cliche that a lot of people, especially young people here, is business success and ethics don't go hand in hand. Ki business mein success hona hai, to kuch you will have to cut corners and do things in a devious way. I know that's not true, but how do we change that mindset that in India, business success means something is wrong, something has been done wrong?
Well, I've told you that I've been in 7 companies, in 7 industries, and I have lived by this principle, and I have not compromised. Some companies may be not so-called ethical, but as far as my department, this thing is concerned, it was kind of insulated, and we never compromised on anything. And therefore, it is hard, it is challenging. But at the end of the day, the kind of satisfaction you have is You can sleep in the night. You can have a sound sleep. And that's important. For those who want to traverse this path, I'm saying it's not for everybody to do this. But those who want to travel this path, yes, it becomes increasingly difficult. But at the same time, you know you're doing something because it's your inner voice, your inner self, your own conscience that tells you what you should be doing. It's a difficult thing. It's a hard thing to do. I mean, let's not kind of pussyfoot this thing. It is hard. But if you have taken that, I have no compromise on this, then you move forward. You face the challenges. You will have ups and downs. But you see, either you have values or you don't have values. There's no in between. You can't say that I will make the mistake once. I'll tell lie one. It does not happen in life. Once you have broken that myth of not telling the truth, there's no stopping. There's no stopping at that point in time.
It is, as we say, a slippery slope. Once you are on that slope, you can't stop.
It's a slippery slope. You cannot. So you have to decide whether you want to travel this path, you want to travel this path. So if you want to travel this path, you know this challenge. It's like you decided, I want to go to Mount Everest. If you want to go Mount Everest, then you got to prepare yourself in a certain way and certain things. You will get challenges, you will get chasms, you will get snowfalls, you will get this thing, you will get animals, all that. But once you've decided, I want to be at Mount Everest, then you got to face all those challenges and do it. Similarly, in corporate life, if you have decided you want to go in an ethical manner, then you go that way. And what is a greater proof than Tata Group? For over 100 years, it has been following that principle. It still exists. It still exists. It's still the most reputed brand in the country. It is the largest as far as market cap is concerned. So how do we say that it doesn't work? It works. Hawkins is a small company, but what's its market cap? Its share price is 4,500 rupees today. You can't buy the share in the market. So I'm not saying that it doesn't work. It works. And I have practiced this. Practice in the sense, not in the way practice. I've lived it. Because, it comes naturally. It depends on your birth, your family background, your experiences in schools, colleges, and things like that. And you become a certain type of person. And therefore, if that is the way you want to go, then you go that way. You cannot then say, no, isme badi parishani hai, isme wo nahi ho raha. As I said, once you have broken the thing, then there's no stopping.
Exactly. So I'll let you now come to Tata Motors. If you can briefly tell us the achievements and setbacks, if any, in your long stint at Tata Motors. We have all heard stories of Tata Ace and Tata Daewoo and Tata Nano and so on. But if you can tell us from the inside how it was to achieve these things.
Can I flip the whole thing?
Yep.
If I say it will be a monologue, कि मैंने क्या किया, ये किया, वो नहीं चाहता. Why don't you people ask me questions and I will answer them on Tata Motors or anything? I think that will be a better thing. Otherwise, it will be a monologue and I don't like that kind of thing. कि मैंने ये किया, वो किया. So if you ask me questions, then I can weave in that kind of thing in a much better fashion.
Yeah, we can do that.
You can ask questions.
I'll start with
You
it
can ask
and
questions.
then give
Anybody
a couple
else,
of minutes
anybody
to
else.
others to
Yeah.
frame their questions in their mind.
Yeah, sure.
So I think for a lay audience like this, not experts in the automotive industry, the most salient question always is Tata Nano. How did that idea come about to launch a car at that price point? What was the thinking behind it? It sounds, from the outside, it sounds like impossible to make a car in 1 lakh. Where did that idea come from?
So idea came much before I joined Tata Motors. Idea was Mr. Tata's. It happened in an auto show in Geneva. There were a lot of correspondents and journalists, and somebody asked him question, what is your dream? So he said, my dream is to make a car, which they said, what do you mean by this? Can you explain? So he said, okay, it should be this, it should be that, it should be that, and it should be between the two-wheelers and this thing, and it should be priced also this. So what somebody said, what should be the price? And he said, in Indian rupees, about 1 lakh rupees. That's how that 1 lakh tag is stuck. Now, this is, say, year 0. Mr. Tata talks to people, auto components industry and all, he throws the challenge, nothing much happens. It goes on 5 years down the road. Within the organization also, this thing, nothing much happens. 7 years later, the dream gets realized. But you have to understand that it is stuck with 1 lakh price point. But in 7 years' time, the whole world has changed. In fact, the concept, 2 things changed in a major way. The concept of the car that he had in mind changed dramatically. When he thought of that 1 lakh car, it was a means of a transportation. Kind of 4-wheel rahega, usme chalayenge. But as the thinking matured and matured and matured, it became a full-fledged car, meeting all the norms of safety, everything. Good-looking car, everything. That is one thing which changed. So you can understand, from a basic vehicle, it became this vehicle. So naturally, the cost would have gone up hugely, substantially. So it's no more 1 lakh. It's a 3 lakh thing now with that thing, logically speaking. Number 2 is, by the time it was kind of introduced, the commodity prices have shot up here. In sometimes it's 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. So again, the cost input became huge. So it's a double whammy. One is the design of the car itself changed, and the other is the commodity prices. So all the equation of 1 lakh thing had totally broken. No way, it was an impossible task, I can tell you that. Then what happened? Then the company said, okay, Mr. Tata has made a promise. Let's go back. Let's not say we can't do it. So let's go back to the drawing board. So we took a white sheet of paper, and it's very interesting. And we broke down a car. What are the components of car that we knew? अगर 1 लाख की गाड़ी होगी तो उसमें पहिया कितने का होना चाहिए, बैटरी कितने का होना चाहिए, वायरिंग हार्नेस कितनी के होने चाहिए, लाइट्स कितनी का, सीट कितने के. It was broken down. A hypothetical car we should sell for 1 lakh. What should be the component? What should be the bill of materials, so to say? So it came to that. Then we put all the engineers, bright engineers and engineering research center and all that to task. कि क्या करना बताओ. It was a challenge thrown to everyone. And that's why it's called to achieve the impossible. It was an impossible task to make a car, a good-looking, fully safe, meeting all the norms, car at 1 lakh rupees. We started doing it. And I said, leveraging people's strength and collaborative and trust and all, everything came together. And people started thinking out of box, because when you do things, you are forced to think out of box. You are forced to be innovative. Otherwise, you can't get the solution. So people started getting, and fantastic solutions started coming from our own people, young engineers, middle-level engineers. नहीं उसको ऐसा कर दो, ये engine का काट दो, ये कर दो, वो कर दो, all kinds of enormous amount. And we threw the challenge to our suppliers. Foreign suppliers, Bosch हो, चाहे Siemens हो, ये लोग हैं. इन लोगों को ये चैलेंज दिया कि भाई ये बनाओ. They all same कि no, it's not possible. And because they are big suppliers and we were big buyers, they said, no, you have to make it possible. We forced them to think out of box. And they came with outstanding solutions, outstanding solutions. So it is a combination of open-mindedness. It's a combination of thinking out of box. It's a combination of challenging yourself. No, I will not accept, not possible. I will do this thing. Then finally, you got it. You got the whole thing. And 7 years later, I told you what were the challenges. The car had changed its character and the commodity prices had gone up. In spite of that, we produced the car at 1 lakh rupees. It was amazing. I mean, I cannot think of an innovation as amazing as this in automobile world. I can tell you that. The rest of the thing is history, but as innovation, it was a fantastic work. We don't talk about it too much, but I can tell you, I don't think in auto industry it has ever happened, nor is it going to happen. I'll give you one example in this. Out of box thinking. Steel is a large component in cars, as you know. And we procure steel from India and Japan and South Korea and all these places. So I talked to a few people. This Nano was the only place where, I never looked at the costs in the sense of procurement and prices. Kis par price kar rahe? Purchase department hai, ye log hai. They are doing this. I never get involved. I got involved only 2 times in my life as far as purchase is concerned. Number one is, whenever Tata Motors had a negotiation with Tata Steel, that was the most difficult negotiation. And embarrassing part was Mr. Tata was the chairman of both companies. So one is a buyer, other is a seller. But this negotiation used to be very difficult. But so I used to do it when I was the helm of affairs. And the other was at the time of Nano. Even 1 rupee thing could not be passed unless I gave my approval. So every time a new product will come, so it will be accompanied in a piece of paper. This is the price, this is what it is. This is supposed to be the price as per the white sheet of exercise paper. This is the price. And so far, cumulatively, whatever we have accepted should have been this price, and it is this price. So even 1 rupee thing had to pass from me. We kept such a tight control on cost. And couple of times it happened, it was going out of whack. So I told the team, friend, now we have to dump the project. We cannot do it. And then the organization came back with fantastic innovation, fantastic thinking, fantastic this thing. Came back to the table, brought it back. It was something, an amazing experience. And therefore, finally, we had it and we produced the car. We sold the car for 1 lakh rupees. So I think this is a combination of open-mindedness, leveraging strengths, collaboration, working as a team, going for a very high thing, working backwards. All the things actually which I've talked about in my book is really exemplifies in nano discussion that I'm having with you.
Great. If anyone has a Tata Motors related question, I think this is a good time. General questions, we will take a Q&A later in this event. So anything specific to Tata Motors? Yep.
Good evening, sir. It's truly a privilege to have you here with us. My name is Kunal. I'm one of the faculty with the School of Management. And just building on to this particular question of Tata Nano, I would now take you to the other end of the spectrum and would request your nuggets on the JLR acquisition. Because as far as certain experts are concerned, they ridicule the idea of how can a company from an emerging market take up a company from a developed country. So what, I mean, nuggets would you, I mean, it'll be great if you could share a few nuggets about how did you actually turn the company around. Thank you.
डॉक्टर कुणाल, JLR बड़ी लंबी कहानी है.
Okay.
तो आप कुछ उसके पोर्शन में पूछिए तो मैं जवाब दूंगा, नहीं तो मैं 1.5 घंटा JLR के ऊपर ही बोलता जाऊंगा.
So before that, Kunal,
Sure.
just to bring students in who might not be familiar with these jargons and abbreviations, Tata Motors acquired Jaguar Land Rover, which is a British manufacturer of Jaguar cars and Land Rover vehicles. And it was a very unique and a rare thing for a company from a developing emerging market like India to acquire a company in a developed market like the UK. So that is it. But yeah, now you want to narrow down the question.
So JLR is a short form of Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sorry for the assumption because I thought the kids would be car
that's fine.
aficionados. So
I'm sure they do.
So maybe, sir, if you could contextualize the inputs in terms of what type of different approach did you take in terms of managing Nano on one hand versus a JLR? Because I'm sure it would be slightly more hands-off, but how do you go about doing it? If that makes sense, sir.
So let me go back to the previous acquisition called Daewoo Truck in South Korea. Because the template for a foreign acquisition was actually set in South Korea. So the basic philosophy was, which will explain a lot, we didn't want to be seen as an Indian company in South Korea. We wanted to be seen as a South Korean in South Korea. You think deeply about it, what this statement means. We did not want us to be seen as an Indian company in South Korea, but we wanted to be seen as a South Korean company in South Korea. There's a world of difference. The Western companies would come, acquire a company, obliterate all the past of that company and merge it with themselves. And they will have a 100-day program in which everything of the past is totally wiped out from the memory. You take any company, but that's the model that they follow. It's worked for many years. It's worked in this thing. But we applied a very contrarian model, in fact, almost like this. This is a contrarian suggestion, leading from the back. What do you mean by leading from the back? Yeah, leading from the front is the thing. What is this nonsense? But I'm saying this is the nonsense which is more appropriate for today's time than the other one. Similarly, when we said, we don't want to do that. We want to do it differently. And what is that differently? It's almost like, say, Tatas. What are Tatas? Tatas are part of the fabric of India. So we said, we want to be merged in the fabric of South Korea. We don't want to be seen as an outsider. We want to merge in that society. Because we were not buying an innate thing. We were not buying a piece of machinery. We were buying a living organism. We were buying a living company. And we wanted that company to do well. And the company consists of what? Company consists of people. Therefore, we wanted people to have pride in themselves. We wanted them to feel achievement. Yeah, they had fallen on bad times, not their fault. It's like LML Vespa. It was not the fault of the people inside the company. Maybe some owners or something may have done something wrong. Here also, circumstances put them in this situation. So if we give them the pride, if they give them the opportunity, if they give them so many things, let them run their business and let them see, yes, of course, we'll have control. Control in the sense we will review, we'll set tasks, we'll that kind of thing we'll do. We're not getting away from that. You have to have vision, you have to task, you have to fulfill the task. How you do it is your thing. So we started with that philosophy. And that is what worked. So the philosophy is very simple, very, very difficult to implement. As a result of which, where we were not wanted, we were one of the 10 bidders, we were not wanted. And by the time the negotiations ended, we were the most favorite of all bidders. And we changed the whole outlook in South Korea. Whole outlook. This is the way a company should acquire another company. So much so that I remember after that, one of our competitors, Mahindra, went and also acquired another company. So at some social this thing, I was talking to him and he said, Ravi, you people have done a great job. I said, what? You have made our life much easier. Why? Because you have also created a very welcoming environment in South Korea for an Indian company. So you see what a great thing to say. So we were not there to just acquire a company and in kind of mercilessly see it as a machine to make money and all that kind of thing. Yes, of course, that's important. But do it in a very different fashion. And that company has worked well and all that kind of thing. Similar template we applied in 4 years later in Jaguar Land Rover. In fact, again, the same problem was there. The president of the US dealer network, which is very strong, he made a comment when it came out in newspapers that Tata Motors was a bidder also. And where is Jaguar Land Rover in terms of positioning is here. Tata Motors is here. So he made a statement that ye tandoori chicken company kahan se, he used the word tandoori chicken company. Why is had the audacity to take over Jaguar Land Rover? It should not be done. The Workers' Council is a very, very strong this thing called Unite. They said, no way. We had conversation with the Unite Council. There were 12 guys there and four from the other side. And we had eye-to-eye, ball-to-eyeball conversation with them. And they had a 15-page questionnaire. And they said all this. Asked very uncomfortable question. At the end of the day, 2 days later, they on their own, they went to the press and said, if Jaguar Land Rover has to go to somebody, it should go to Tata Motors. So I'm saying we changed the whole philosophy because we knew we were transparent. We knew we were genuine. We knew we were this thing. Then we acquired the company. Mr. Tata went in our town hall meeting and what a fantastic reception. We took a round of the US dealerships. The guy who's talked about tandoori chicken became our best friend. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, financial parameters are important, other things are important, but the most important thing is the human behavior, human psychology, and how you deal with people. And that is what you will need in abundance as you go up your ladder of career, I can tell you that. As you keep going up, one single thing which will be most important, which will make a difference between success and failure is your behavior, your understanding of human being, and how you deal with that thing. To me, this is the most important thing in life. Whether it is you are dealing you're in a work or in your social circle or you're in a family, this thing, any which way. Keep this in mind that your behavior and your understanding, your dealing with people is the most important thing. All your learning, all your this thing, technology, all your this thing will go for 6 if you don't have this.
Excellent. So this whole approach of kind of soft power approach of dealing with people and relationship building and trust building, rather than coming in like a army and destroying the acquired company and turning it into a copy of your own company. That template, you have done it at least twice with Daewoo, with JLR. Certainly seems to work. We'll come back to more questions, but I think in interest of time, we get a little more specific. We have learned a lot of the lessons from the book already in your talking about your work in these companies. But coming to the book specifically, one thing that struck me when I read this book is I honestly start with a bit of skepticism when I read so-called leadership or management books. Anyone from Jack Welch downward, these books often tend to be a bit preachy and a bit lectury, telling people how to do things. You seem to have taken a very unique approach of telling it through a parable. Can you talk to us about that decision? Why a parable? And I found this book fun and not preachy at all.
So working backwards, this book is aimed at, say, middle managers and young managers, not the top guys. Because top guys have already set their mind, they know what is right, nothing should be changed, and what they're saying is right always. So you cannot change their minds. So I want to reach the middle managers, because they have got their whole life, 35, 40 years, 50 years ahead of them. And they need to live in an environment which does not suffocate them, but which gives them opportunities to blossom, opportunities to succeed, opportunities to this thing. That's the whole idea. So how do you reach? In fact, I was writing a very serious book on this subject, till somebody said, why don't you think of a parable? So I was a bit surprised. But I thought about it with an open mind. And I said, yeah, why not? Because it's a difficult subject. Leading from the back, अरे क्या यार, leading from the front is the thing. ये क्या उल्टी सीधी बात कर रहे हो? तो हमने कहा, कहानी से बोलना जो है, it will be easier to reach out to them, to make it understand. So that's how, but I'm not an expert in parables. So again, leveraging strengths. My strength was that I knew the philosophy, I knew this thing, I knew the structure, everything, but I'm not a writer. So we came across two very famous parable writers in the US, Harry Paul and Ross Ray. So we combined together. So they brought their strength, I brought my strength. And in COVID period, over Zoom calls and emails and all that, we created the book. Then it was a question of कि अच्छा भाई कहानी लिख रहे हो, parable लिख रहे हो, fable लिख रहे हो, story लिख रहे हो, इसमें कुछ illustrations भी डाल दो, तो it becomes much easier also. So that's why we put illustrations also, so that, it's like kind of not comic book, but something akin to that. It makes for easier understanding of things. We want to reach out to, because that audience is there. So we said one thing, what is the content? How it should be packaged? How to reach out, what should be the pricing? So we said it should be priced at something, should not think twice if he wants to buy the book. And therefore took a conscious decision not to have any hardcover, have only paperback. And at cover price of 299 rupees, its cover price does not mean the sale price, I mean the price you buy. Price you can buy is, and Amazon you can buy it to 2008 rupees, 2000, 2030, 2040. So that you should not think twice before you say, कोई बात नहीं, अगर नहीं पढ़ा तो भी ठीक है, 200 रुपया, 225 रुपया खर्चा करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आज के टाइम में. कहीं भी रेस्टोरेंट में जाओ तो 400 रुपये की तो डिश मिलती है. So you not think twice about buying this. So you buy, the more you buy this, so it is a difficult thing to understand, so it may not fly off the shelves. It will take some time. But when we get a critical mass, I have no doubt in my mind, for which one has to work very hard, it will go like this. Because I passionately believe that it is something whose time has come. It is the right thing for the right time. And India should take the lead in this. It's a thought which is akin to our philosophy, our this thing. And it should, but it will take some time. So we need to create a kind of critical mass, if I may say so, for it to. Have you heard what is this very famous writer? I'm forgetting his name. I'll come to that. When you have critical mass, so like you have, say, in epidemics, how do epidemics occur?
I think you mean Malcolm Gladwell?
Malcolm.
Yep.
The books, can you name a couple of his?
Tipping Point.
Tipping Point.
Yep.
So let's take a tipping point. So, or I said in case of virus, how did virus say we all suffered through? How did it happen? It acquired a tipping point and then it became a virus. So one is seeing how I can reach that tipping point. I don't have the answer. By talking physically to people like you, by having an audio book, which is also coming in mid-February, by going on the net, by going on social media. I don't have the answers, but I'm trying. And I'm trying to say how it's like a religion. Some people will get affected, some people will do some things, and like this, if it starts happening, maybe we'll reach a tipping point in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, I don't know, God knows when. At that point in time, it will become quite a thing. Or it may fall flat. I don't know. But you need to try. And that's what I've learned in my life. Don't give up. Keep trying, till either it succeeds or it fails.
So leading from the back, coming to the title of the book, Leading from the Back, I think it's self-evident, though it's very counterintuitive. As you've said, we've always been told that leaders should lead from the front, that your troops should follow you. You are the leader, you show the way and others will follow. But leading from the back is counterintuitive. And not only counterintuitive, maybe you can explain how today it sounds like easier said than done, because people who want to be leaders have very bloated egos generally. And if you have a bloated ego and you think you should be the star of the show and get credit for everything that happens in your team or in your organization, how do you give up that desire to be the hero and let other people be the hero? You have done that, so how do we do that?
Because in today's organization, that thing won't work. Young people like that will not like to work in that organization, which is led by a very egoistic, bombastic, all kind of leader. If you have all those kind of characters in the senior leadership, middle leadership, you will get suffocated. And today's kids don't want that kind of thing. They don't want to live that life. I mean, in our generation, we have tolerated that. Let me put it this way. Because we had different constraints, limited opportunities, and things like that. The world was not what it is today. The world today is very different from what it was 50 years ago or 60 years ago when we started our careers. And today there is whole opportunities. And here itself, whatever I've heard today in Ahmedabad city, the kind of thing they are doing, this thing of what you call the studio thing, which
Foundation program. Yeah.
Foundation program, where they're saying how different streams of thoughts are coming, putting together, and then you are solving a problem. Is that kind of thing? Can a studio be run by egocentric leader? You have to answer that question, yes or no.
No, but we'll ask them as well. Yeah.
No, I'm asking you.
Yeah, because it has so many disciplines in it, you
Yeah.
can't have one big leader of that.
So you can't run it. And if you want to succeed in today's time, you got to have that kind of things coming all together and making things happen. Otherwise, you will be left behind. You will become also ran. You will become a failure. You will not move ahead. If you want to move ahead, you got to have different thinking. But this is not easy. It's difficult. I'm sure even in your experiment, you have found it difficult because it's not easy for people to collaborate. It is not only counterintuitive, it's counter personal beliefs. And then putting them all together and trying to put their heads together to solve a common problem is a very difficult task. But if you want to get breakthroughs, that's the way. That's the only way to do it.
Perfect. So in the last few minutes before we open this up to more questions, so as the title of our conversation today says, self, team, and task. So briefly, when you say manage self in the process of leading from the back, what exactly does it mean? What again, our intuitive understanding of leadership is you manage other people and you manage the goal of the company. How does managing myself come into the picture?
Because it's counterintuitive, because you feel the way you are dealing with things, the feel your understanding is there, that's the way you do it. It's not. First, you need to change yourself. Or you need to see whether you tick those boxes to lead from the back, you can say. So, three important things is have an open mind. Again, simple thing. It's very difficult to do it in practice. And I've said earlier is the more successful you are, more close-minded you become. So it's very tough. Second is assume ownership. Again, easier said than done, but I gave some examples earlier. I don't want to repeat. And third is be detached. It's a very Indian thought, Oriental thought, detachment. Western minds cannot understand many times because for them attachment is the thing. But we have experienced this in our life. Those people, as I mentioned earlier, also familiar with Gita and all that, it's a very central thought. Detachment is, काम करो, फल की इच्छा मत करो. That is detachment. So like this, again, these are very difficult things. I'm saying they are not easy. They look easy. Very, very difficult to follow. But if you want to do it, I'm saying, as I said, if you want to climb Mount Everest, then you got to do certain things. You got to train yourself. You got to do this. You got to do all that. You have to do it. But first, most difficult thing in life is to decide what you want to do, where you want to be. This is the most difficult decision in anybody's life. Where do I want to be? Immediate. Once you have decided on that, rest is laid out for you. Then you don't have an option. Then you don't have an option. Because then you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this to be able to reach there.
So that's about self. In your book, and as Ravi has been saying, given the insightful lessons we are getting from the book, don't think twice before buying it. Yeah, so, but do try and read the book, as many of you as can, buy it or share it, or but read that. So the first thing was about the self. About team, one thing that struck me, which I again wanted to pick your brain a bit about, you said trust, of course, and you have talked about trust all the way in your career. But in the book, you say people have to like you before they trust you. That again, sometimes we are taught that leader's job is not a popularity contest. Being liked is not as important as being respected and trusted, but you are linking the two. So do people have to emotionally connect with you before they trust with you, or they can?
No.
Or liking is important?
Emotionally connect is also something different.
Okay.
Liking is not the way that you're trying to win popularity contests. Let me put it this way, that the reverse of that, people should not dislike you. If people don't like, people should not dislike you. I think that's more important. I think that's the fundamental thing that one wants to say. It's not like in the sense that, okay, you should love or you should do this thing and that kind of, People should like you in the sense they should feel that you are a fair person, you are an equitable person, you are a transparent person, you live by your words, you have integrity. Trust I call, as I said earlier, I call consistent integrity. You must have integrity, and integrity is not financial integrity alone. More than that, I feel the moral integrity and behavioral integrity is, in my view, more important. Because financial integrity, you can find out कि भैया उसने पैसा चोरी किया, नहीं चोरी किया, गड़बड़ किया, नहीं किया. But to find psychological and moral integrity is very difficult. And that can be far more damaging than the say, intellectual, lack of intellectual integrity can be far more damaging than the lack of financial integrity. And therefore, that integrity, and number two, that integrity must be shown over a period of time. It should be consistent. Because as I said, you can be honest once, it doesn't mean that you are honest. You got to be honest all the time. It should be part of your DNA. You don't want to act honest. You are live honest. I mean, that is the difference. Once you try to do something other, it automatically happens. So that's what I'm talking about, is when this kind of thing happens, then people begin to trust you. They may not like your decision. Sometimes you take tough decisions and it may not be in favor of this person. That person will feel bad. यार हमारा ये नहीं हुआ, ये गड़बड़ हो गया, ये हो गया. But he thinks twice. He said, but he's followed the same yardstick. Unfortunately, that yardstick is gone against my favor. But he has followed the same yardstick throughout. And that's what then evokes trust. Because you're not doing favoritism. You are not doing this thing. Yes, favoritism you need to do, but favoritism you need to do on the basis that people who high performance on competence and things like that, you need to do favoritism. Not because I like somebody or he's from my community or he's from my village or this thing or that thing because he's my chamcha and all that. So that's not integrity. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's the difference between liking and just being popular to get more votes or more chamchas in your team. And one final one. And so after we finish this in the next few minutes, can people start framing questions in their mind? And also, sorry, I seem to have ignored our many friends who are on Zoom, I can see here. So people on Zoom, if you have questions, please can you type them in the chat box? And Astha, can someone in the team read the chats and read out some questions from there as well? So we'll have a mix of questions from those who have joined us on Zoom and those who are in the auditorium. So the third bit in the title, so we've talked a bit about self, a bit about team, then about the task. In the old days, in your and my days, there used to be this McGregor's theory, X theory, Y, very popular. The youngsters might not have heard theory X, theory Y has kind of fallen out of favor these days. But theory X, to explain to the youngsters here, was the belief that people don't want to work, that employees don't want to work, and you have to be a tough taskmaster to make people work. And theory Y was people are inherently good, and if you treat them well and do the soft management rather than the hard management, you will get more productivity out of people. And some managers tended to be theory X managers with a stick. Some tended to be theory Y managers where they built relationships and got the team to do by being nice to the team rather than being beating up the team. So the truth, obviously, in all these things lies somewhere in the middle. So how do you make sure that you achieve the tasks, achieve the goals, while still not alienating the team?
You see, the last part of that is how do I deal with the task is be tough softly. So actually it is theory, kind of theory why. But as far as the task is concerned, first of all, you're setting yourself very high ambitions and working. And then you are very tough in achieving that task. You're not compromising anything. And you're doing it in ethical manners, which makes it doubly difficult. And therefore, you are focused on that. It's like Arjuna's thing, कि अच्छा वो मछली को मारना है तो नीचे देख के. It's like that. Then your entire body language, you start thinking, it's a 24/7 thing. It's not a 9 to 5 kind of thing. Then you are thinking all the time. All the time is in your mind. अच्छा क्या होगा, कैसे करेंगे, ये है, वो, अच्छा ये idea है, लिख लिया, ये कर दिया, अच्छा वो करोगे. So it is that kind of thing. So you're not compromising on the fulfillment of the task or achieving of the task. But sure, you're dealing with people. And people have personal problems. People have personal challenges. You should be cognizant of that. And you should be humane. You cannot say, irrespective of anything, if somebody's wife is ill, that you are castigating him, you are saying, oh, why the hell didn't you come yesterday? And what is this nonsense? And the work is suffering. I mean, you got to understand and appreciate all these things. And unless you do that, you cannot have a good teamwork. So, as I said again earlier in interaction is, be tough with people, but don't be rough with people. So be tough, not rough. That's what I would like to say. And I think, as I said, it works very well. And actually, you don't have to be tough also very much, because when people get into the mood of doing things, I mean, there'll be few exceptions. Of course, in life, in any society, there are always exceptions. But when the whole team begins to do, it's a different atmosphere, I can tell you. When the whole, it's like football game, or it's like cricket, where the team is working all together. It's that kind of thing. You are wanting to achieve things together, and without this, it can't happen. Without, you need this position, also this position, also this position. You cannot always have only batsmen in cricket. You need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have finishers. So a lot of these things are there. So you need to understand all that, and you need to allow that to happen. But at the same time, you can't get away from the fact that you have to win the match. But winning the match is not the most important thing. I think playing, as they say, is the most important thing, and playing in a nice manner.
Yeah, I think those two phrases, if anything, we take out of this last bit, being tough softly and being tough, not rough. I think these phrases, we should write it in front of our desk and look at them every day. I think that those are things, again, not rocket science, easier said than done, but we sometimes cross the line between being tough and being rough, and that spoils the atmosphere. So that's a very good note. If we missed anything you want to say, or should we go to questions?
Yeah, let's go to questions.
Questions. So Asta, if we can have a mix of questions from here and read out from Zoom. Yep. Yep. So there are a few hands. If we can quickly pass the mics around. So whoever asking the question, quickly just tell your name and stand up and ask questions so we can see you in the.
Good evening, sir. This is Sandeep Yadav.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm Ahmedabad graduate, and 3 of my batchmates came from Tata Motors. And one of the things that Last weekend, I was conversing with Mr. Rajesh Gopinathan, ex-CEO of TCS. And I would like to merge the points. So Tata Motors does not exist in isolation. So it
Sorry?
works. Tata Motors works in an ecosystem, and each part of the ecosystem. For example, Tata Elxsi has different requirements. Tata Motors has different. So the people are different. The cultures are different. How do you kind of create a synergy between people with different thought processes, different recruitment practices, and different requirement?
So if Tata Elxsi wants to do a great job, it must collaborate with Tata Motors because it doesn't get the opportunity otherwise. If Tata Motors wants to succeed, then it must collaborate with Tata Elxsi to make a great product. It's as simple as that. But if both of them have their own egos, Tata Motors, no, I am great, तो मैं उसको दे रहा हूँ, वो काम कर रहा नहीं कर रहा है, और Tata Elxsi, no, I am bringing this thing to the table, I am a great guy. If you come with that kind of mindset, then it won't happen. But if you come with a different mindset that together we want to create a great product, then you will succeed. Then you will succeed. I mean, I can give you a reference to, say, ex-CEOs or this thing of Tata Elxsi. Go and talk to them. What do they think about? What's their experience with Jaguar Land Rover before Tata Motors, before Tata's came? And what is their experience after Tata's came? It's a world of difference. So you need to be very clear about your goals and not about yourself, not about your ego, not about where you are. Forget that. You are focused on what you want to achieve. And if you are focused on what you achieve and put your ego in the cupboard, then you can achieve a lot.
Yeah, there. Mhm.
Hello, sir. My name is Devam Joshi, and I'm an MBA student. Kunal sir brought the point of the JLR acquisition. So my question was that what were the issues that the JLR management was facing pre-acquisition, and how did Tata Motors manage to resolve those issues and make it again profitable?
You know, Jaguar Land was making losses and all that kind of thing. And we, as I said earlier, we bought it for $2.5 million. Actually, it was not dollars, I think it was pounds. And we started making that profit 2 years later, that kind of profit. So I'll tell you in very succinct and short manner. Of course, price was an important consideration. But as I mentioned here, leverage strengths. In team, I have mentioned that in the third one, go for big test the limits, then look outside in and leverage strengths. No, sorry, in the second one, leverage strengths. So I was looking at strengths. What is the strength of Jaguar Land Rover? What is the strength of Tata Motors? And how can we combine the two and therefore make it a powerful thing? So we did a lot of things which are little unconventional. Normally, when you're doing this kind of deal, then it's mainly the finance people who are talking to each other and legal people. It's a finance legal job. But we said, no, it's a finance legal job. Those are nice things and we must follow that. Dotting the I's and crossing the T's. We'll let people look at that. But basically, as I mentioned earlier, is you're buying a living thing and you want that living thing to perform well. And therefore, don't get locked into these numbers. Let's look at what kind of strengths are there and how you can leverage those strengths. So we found 5. in Tata Motors, which are non-financial. Number one is that they were not, in that period, they were not known for great products. And they were under Ford, and Ford had some major goof-ups. Ford tried to bring Jaguar Land Rover as Ford on the Ford platform. That was a disaster. So we saw when we went there, we found there were great products in the pipeline. And we test drove some of them in the test track there, and we found them fantastic. So one was they had great products. Number two was their engineering and design group was absolutely out of this world. They had some limitations, which I'll talk, they had close mind on many things. But in something, they were fantastic. So not only they have products now, but they promise of products in future also. These are the two main points. Number three was they were literally had a bad reputation for quality. In the sense, the joke was in the US that if you needed to have a Jaguar, you needed two. One for the road, other for the garage. Means all the time it's in workshop, one vehicle. That is the reputation for quality. But Ford and BMW before that put a lot of money to improve quality, which was not known to people, public, but we saw it with our own eyes. So this is happening. They've changed the whole factory. And it was getting noticed in JD Power studies in the US. So it was coming on top. So that is the third thing. The quality had substantially improved, or it was on to improvement. Fourth was that brand was good, but brand was tarnished. And therefore, you can polish the brand if you did right things. And again, make it kind of shiny. And the fifth was they had a fantastic, passionate network of dealers. Although the network was making losses for last 4 years prior to our coming, the network thought that Tata Motors is not the kind of company which should take over Jaguar Land Rover, as I mentioned about tandoori chicken. That was the mindset. But these were the 5 strengths. Because in spite of making losses, because we took permission from Ford to go and meet with the dealers. Normally, it doesn't happen. We met with dealers in the UK, we met with dealers in the USA. And the kind of passionate they were about the brand is amazing, out of this world. And the guy is making losses for 4 years, but he said, "Nahi yaar, wo Jaguar to Jaguar hi." Sense of pride, sense of this thing. So we felt, now I'll tell you about the, now you can understand, if you were to put it all together, nice products, even nicer products coming, good quality, passionate network, good brand, it's a deadly combination. The success, you will be staring success on his face. If you do your job well. There were 2 things, but they lacked something, which Tata Motors brought to the table. So Tata Motors added 2 things, in my view. Number 1 is discipline of cost. They had a cost plus approach because they were in premium category. They said कि किसी भी दाम पे बना दो, customer खरीदेगा. The cost plus approach. So you're not bothered about, and because they were part of a large organization like Ford, they didn't even know what is cash flow. अगर प्रॉब्लम होगी कैश की तो यार वहां फोन कर दो, बोल दो वो डेट्रॉइट में, वो वहां से पैसा आ जाएगा. So they didn't have appreciation for cost. Tata Motors brought the discipline of cost, which was very painful, I must say that. But one of the key elements of this turnaround or making profit was that how we drove the cost down in a very, very disciplined manner, very disciplined manner. That's one point. Second, what Tata Motors brought to the table was consumer orientation. As I mentioned to you, the more successful a company is, the more close-minded they become. And it is true for most successful companies across the world, across industries. So you begin to feel that what I think best, what I know best is what is best for the customer. I've seen this in Philips also. Usually well-known name, fantastic innovation. But for Philips, Holland was the place. Whatever is good for Holland is good for the world. Whatever is good for Warwickshire in the US, in the UK, is good for the world. That was the philosophy in Jaguar Land Rover also. Or anywhere else. What is good for me is good for the world. And this is, we sometimes get caught in this, we become prisoner of this mindset. It's only because we don't have an open mind. And we don't have consumer orientation because we don't know what does the consumer in China require? What does the consumer in India require? Even in the consumer, which is US for the big market, what does the consumer in US require? I mean, I can give you enough examples. We didn't know. When you went around the dealers, they were crying for two things. I don't want to name them. And they said, no, वो आएगा 3 साल बाद हमारा मॉडल चेंज होगा आएगा. हमने कहा यार बारिश अभी हो रही है, छाता अभी जरूरत है. तो 3 साल बाद दोगे तो क्या होगा? तब तक तो हम लोग खत्म हो जाएंगे. Then force them to change. We force them to change. And when this was announced later, 1 year later, 1.5, what a applause we got from dealer network. Then they began to see कि भैया ये कंपनी जब कंज्यूमर ओरिएंटेड हो रही है, हमारी बात सुन रही है. And that made a big difference. So Tata Motors, now you put it all together, the 5 strengths of Jaguar Land Rover and 2 strengths that Tata brought to the table. A combination of 7, something had to change. And what change was positive.
Amazing. This, like all conversation series, this will be, will stay forever on our university YouTube channel. I seriously suggest go back and listen to these 5 minutes, these last 5 minutes. You guys will be ready to acquire a company tomorrow with that kind of gold mine of insight into how to approach a company for acquisition. Few words that stick with me. Companies are living beings. Companies are made of people. Buildings, logos, desks, chairs, computers is not company. Company is people. And if we treat companies as people, we connect. Because very often, not just for mergers and acquisitions, we see companies as balance sheets, financial statements, Excel sheets. Companies don't live in balance sheets. Companies live in people. That memorize those last 5 minutes, please. Go back and watch it on YouTube a few times and memorize it. Thank you so much for those last 5 minutes. We are running a bit out of time, but if you're okay, we can stay for another few minutes beyond 7 o'clock. Is there anything from Zoom you want to read out?
Yes, sir. I'll be reading the question. One question that I asked is, what was the mindset and attitude of Sir Ratan Tata and the whole team after he came back from the meeting with Ford company in Britain?
Sorry?
What was the mindset and attitude of Sir Ratan Tata and your entire team dealing with the JLR acquisition? So what was your mindset after the meeting in the meeting with Ford company in Britain?
Ford company.
Yes.
After acquiring or after meeting pre-acquiring?
Both times. Like
Pre or post. They are 2 different things.
Pre-acquisition, because that was very dilemma.
Pre-acquisition, I
Put
talked
that
about.
question on hold. Go back to the question and clarify that while we take a question here. Yeah. Quickly pass the microphone around. Yep. Yes.
Good morning, sir. I'm Kush Malukani from the MBA cohort and someone who will be joining the corporate workforce in the coming year. Now speaking about the last 5 years and very dominantly about the youth of our generation, switching jobs has become a very common practice in the industry. Even though an individual is getting a good work culture and has great projects in the pipeline to work upon, they are switching jobs due to major or minor factors that can be considered. And as you have had the privilege to work in various sectors and with various companies across the years, do you think it is a good practice or something that should be seriously considered?
I can't answer that question. It depends upon the circumstances. It depends on your ambitions. It depends upon what are your values. There's so many things. So there cannot be one pat answer to these kind of things. You have your own way of looking at things. You need to see what is. One thing is there. You need to have your priorities right in life. If you would take a blank sheet of paper and a pencil and an eraser, write down what are the 3 topmost priorities that you have. 1, 2, 3 in life. And same for career. And please understand they are in that order, 1, 2, 3. Because if there is a trade-off between 1 and 2, 1 has to win. If it's a trade-off between 2 and 3, 2 must win. So it is therefore in hierarchy. And therefore you work out what are your 3 priorities in life. And then you see, then you take your decisions. Then whether those priorities meet with switching jobs or not switching jobs or going here or going there or talking to this thing, you will have the answer. But I can tell you, again, it's simply said, it's easy to say that, to put your 3 priorities on table. All of you go in the next couple of days, you try to do it on a piece of paper. You'll find it extremely difficult. I mean, with the first flush, you will come to something, but then you start thinking about it. They start getting trade off. Nahi, but lekin ye bhi humko chahiye, lekin ye bhi humko chahiye. Then you start debating with yourself, with your conscience. By the time you arrive at a mature decision on what are my 3 priorities, they tell you where you want to go and how you want to go. Good. In life and career both.
We'll get to another questionnaire, but just to add to this gentleman's question, like when you were tracing your journey, you said you were at Kinetic for a short 1.5 years, or you were here for a short 2 years. In today's world, 1.5 years is a veteran. I see in a lot of companies, including in my children's company, when they've been in a company for a year, they are considered veterans in that company. So the whole time scale has completely changed, by the way. So I think they need to, as you said, set priorities right. If a year is enough for you in a company and you want to move on, see that your moving on is in line with your 3 priorities. Yes, one more question, please. Yep, here or there. Can microphones move quickly so we don't wait? Yeah.
Thank you for an enlightening session. I am Bhavya, 4th-year BBA student. And I had a question on how to manage ourselves. As you said, the best way is to detach ourselves. So basically, sir, we all are of 22 or 23 years of age. So can you throw some light on how can we detach ourselves from the targets and from our goals, or basically?
How old was Arjun in Mahabharata?
When he left,
Huh?
when he left
When he was doing the war, bolo? Huh? 20.
19 or 20.
He is saying the age 20, Arjun, in Mahabharata war. What is the lesson which was being taught to him by Krishna, his mentor or philosopher or whatever you want to call him? At the age of 20, he is being told, be detached. ये इमोशन जो है कि हमारे फैमिली वाले हैं उनको कैसे मारेंगे, क्या करेंगे, वो करेंगे, बस तो तुम्हारा धर्म है यार, तुम धर्म के लिए जी रहे हो. You have certain duty, perform your duty. And you can't do that unless you're detached. So it's not something which is new, it is something which is time immemorial. So, as I said, it's a difficult thing. Because we are born with attachment. We are attached to our parents, child is attached to mother, mother is attached to child, you are attached to your father, mother, this thing, that thing. All that is all right, you should have it. But I am going beyond that. I am saying that when you are doing your work, it should not be for your own say कि अच्छा यार मुझे पैसा मिल जाएगा बहुत, यार मुझे promotion मिल जाएगा, मुझे ख्याति मिल जाएगी. That may be important, but don't put it the top of your priority. Put it much lower down in your priority. I'm not saying you should not pursue that thing, but don't put it there. Let that not become the North Star for you. Put it lower down in priority, and you'll be a better person. All I can say is that.
Quickly, one
Thank you.
question here, and then, yeah, one question here, then there. Yep.
I'm Saloni. I am a writer and I used to be in the corporate world, but left it. You worked in a lot of geography, South Korea and across the world. If there's one thing you could change about corporate culture in India, especially when it comes to leadership, is there anything you would change? And if so, what would that be?
No, I don't want to change things for changing this, but I'm saying that because of the changes which are taking place around us, around environment, you know, I was talking to your Vice Chancellor a little while ago. Organizations are changing. And there's a very fantastic book. Sir, you may like to read. It is on organization. Reinventing Organizations by Frederick Laloux. Organizations are changing because human mindset is changing. And it happens once in a generation kind of thing. Capitalism is changing. Capitalism, which we have known till 50 years ago, this thing here, that is changing because the technologies have become the financiers. They are controlling money. They are controlling power. Mindsets are changing. Information is changing. In this kind of thing, therefore, leadership has to change because, as I mentioned earlier, leadership is contextual. If context changes, it's like you're making a product. आप audience देख के product बनाओगे ना? If audience wants this kind of product, then you will have that kind of product. If audience doesn't want that kind of product, then it will not work. So I'm saying the context is changing, therefore leadership is changing. And here is the opportunity for India. Because this concept of leadership that I'm talking about is so rooted in our ethos that it comes naturally to us in a way. Or at least, let us put it this way, it comes more naturally to us than it would come to a Western mind, a person in Western society. But this is the need of the hour. This is the right fit for the right circumstances. If this is the right fit, how can we leverage it? And we are in the best position to leverage it. We can take leadership. We can take the leadership of leadership. That's what I'm trying to say. We can take the leadership of leadership. What kind of leadership world should have? And I think it is also Asian century. If 18th century was, or 15th, 16th, 17th centuries were that for Europe, Renaissance and all that. 18th, 19th century, partly of 20th century were that of industrialization, UK and and some this thing of Europe and USA. Last year, 20th century was that of US, Americans. I think time has come for Asian century. And why time has come? Because 500 years ago, in 16th century, India and China accounted for 3/4 of the world trade. 3/4 of the world trade. Let's not forget that. And then it came down to 12%. By 1950, it had come down to this. And who had acquired that? So in between, Europe, including, say, UK, they acquired 60% of share of trade because they had colonies and this thing, blah, 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 so many. And then the US wave came after World Wars, World War I, World War II. Europe got hammered, big countries all got hammered, China got hammered. And therefore, US became the undisputed leader. And US powers this thing as you can. But as we are moving into the 20th century, we are coming back. China, India, Southeast Asia. Where is the, if I was to tell you that three-fourths of the increase in GDP, in the world GDP, is being accounted for by Asia. You can say which way the wind is blowing. Yes, of course, it's a little early because still per capita income, we have not come to that kind of level and all that. But that itself is questionable. Is that what we are pursuing? Should everybody be happy only when they've got $25,000 per annum income? It's a philosophical question. Is that the goal I'm pursuing? Because the world sees that, okay, when everybody becomes that, that means you are a developed country. But does it also mean that you are a happy country? These are philosophical questions which are now arising. And arising mainly with youngsters. Mainly with youngsters. Youngsters are questioning. Again, it's not a diversion, but you have heard of Chicago School of Economists? Chicago School of Economics. They said that 100 years ago, 80 years ago, they said the only thing in corporate world is to pursue shareholders' value. Shareholders' value is one single focus. You carry on that. So the entire American this thing system, everything when the shareholder value increase karna, shareholder value, how you can become billionaires, that drove everything. Now people are questioning, is that the right pursuit? So people are saying, what about the other stakeholders? What about the employees? What about smaller shareholders? What about the society at large? Does the company exist? So people are questioning, does the company exist only for shareholders? Or does it exist for the society? Does it exist for its people who are working in the company? These questions are being raised. So that is not the thing. Youngsters are also raising. In my mindless pursuit for profit, what am I doing to the planet? Is this the way we want to go? Do we want to kill the planet for our next generations? This is the legacy do we want to leave behind? Is this the legacy do we want to leave behind? Do I want to propagating this or do I want to be part of preventing it? These are questions which are being raised, which are becoming important themes across the world. And therefore, you are looking at a different kind of leadership. And the kind of leadership we have been used to is not the one which is going to fit this model. And I'm saying, therefore, our country is well poised to take the leadership on leadership. And I wouldn't be surprised that 10 years from now, it happens so. but it will not happen automatically. It will require some hard work. It will require people like you who become champions, who go and talk about it. It's like evangelists. It's like spread of Christianity. You are spreading a religion, but you are fighting a very powerful force. And that powerful force is that leading from the front concept is so well entrenched. It's a behemoth. It's an iceberg. So the best thing when you see this kind of thing is to not confront it, go around it. Go around it. Don't fight it directly. Start chipping on the sides. Start chipping on the sides. You must have done physics in your 7th, 8th class. एटम में क्या होता है? वो इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं, एटम होता है, डिफरेंट सर्कल्स होते हैं जिसमें इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होते हैं. So when you have to have a chemical composition, what happens? Is the electrons from the outer layer which get transferred, ना? वो नीचे का जो एटम है जिसमें न्यूक्लियस है उसको तो बड़ा स्ट्रांग है. And this is what I have followed in my life also. कि अगर समझो से बजाज है, बजाज इज अ बेहेमथ, इतने हैं, बट उसमें भी तो डिफरेंट लेयर्स ऑफ dissatisfaction होगा. How can I peel away like an onion the outer layer? Because it is very difficult to peel away the center core. So you start peeling away the outer layer. Similarly, as this is a behemoth, strongly enriched for so many hundreds of years, you cannot demolish it. You can only peel it away. Layer by layer by layer by layer. And for that, you need to do something. So I'm saying India is the right place to do this. And the young generation is the right generation to peel it. And it is for you people. You need to decide whether you want to be part of that thing or you don't want to be part. I'm not saying you should be. But in your conscience, you need to decide, is that a priority for you? Do you want to live in a planet which is this? Do you want to live in an organization which is suffocating? Do you want to leave behind that kind of thing for your children? These are the very basic questions which you must ask yourself. And you must then come to your own answers. And then you must do something to go in that direction. So it is for you people to do. हम लोग के तो time खत्म हो गया.
Okay. I promised a question to someone there, so we will take that.
But we are still waiting for
And yes, and if there's a clear question on Zoom or is that gone away, if the person is not there. So because we will need to let Mr. Khan go away soon. He's had a long day. He flew into Ahmedabad early morning, so you've had a long day and we've kept you longer than we promised. So last question, nothing on Zoom. Yeah, okay.
Good evening. My name is Khushi and I'm a 4th-year BBA student. So my question revolves around how to manage team and tasks. So when we talk about team and task, performance management system comes into picture because you have people working with you and around you and under you. Their performance matters a lot, and even it matters for the organizational goal. So constantly to motivate them is important. So how do we do that? And when we talk about theory X, Y, I think even theory Z would come in picture, because I wanted to know if theory Y is the ideal way to do it, because when we talk about theory Z, we talk about employees take the ownership to their work. So do you think even theory Z would be applicable? Thank you.
It's a difficult question, but a relevant one. Well, let me think through it. What I'm proposing, it's somewhat different, or you can say it picks up things from here, there, and It's all puts it in a somewhat different light. You talked about, yes, the society or the corporates are geared to performance management systems and things like that. Yes, of course. And there needs to be some, but we can't get locked into that. I'll give an example. We heard about GE. We talked about Mr. Jack Welch, who was the manager of the century. The corporate leader may be more powerful than the president. One of the things he proposed and which became the fashion at that point in time is called bell curve of assessment. You know what is bell curve? It's like this. So there are in the front, there is the back, and there is median. So he said people must be fitted into the bell curve. You need to force fit people into bell curve. So अगर 100 लोग हैं तो 10 आदमी जो हैं बहुत बढ़िया है, 10 आदमी बहुत खराब है. You have to put them into that jacket. Force fit. And then there is a whole lot of the bulk of the population. It became such a fantastic thing at that point in time. Everybody started applying, and they become experts in bell curve, and in HR department, bell curve lagao bhai, bell curve, force fitting. Today I talk to people, is bell curve the right thing to do in an organization? The answer is no. अरे भाई वो अगर आप जिसको आपने लास्ट 10% में फिट किया है, if that person is doing his best or her best, is giving all this, is making a difference to the company, why are you putting in that bucket? It's not fair. It's not reasonable. Yes, of course, if somebody is genuinely a laggard, in that sense, if somebody generally not sincere and is therefore not doing things, that's a different thing. But don't force fit people into that bucket. So this is a more humane way of, and probably more practical and realistic way of doing things. So I'm saying, you talked about performance management system, because performance management system got geared towards bell curve. And people are now getting away from bell curve. It's for that reason. And so in doing this, it's not just, I would say, theory X or Y or Z. I'm not going by any theories. I'm going by as we move along, because you need to, each human being is different. So I'm coming to a thing like you have today is, you must have heard of that a production run of one, because we are coming to very individualistic things. So from mass manufacturing, we're moving to a direction where you are making product useful to one person only. And all this artificial intelligence and all these kind of things is moving it in that direction. आपको क्या पसंद है? आपके लिए वो product आएगा. And even when you go to even an Amazon and all, that tells you, okay, you're buying this product, then suddenly it will come and say, okay, you may also look at these products. Or you bought this book, you may also look at this. Because they've got the whole history, they've got their whole psychological profile, and they're saying, if you're liking this, you should like this also. That's how it is happening. At some time, it will become a product is made tailor-made for you. That's also going to happen. In medicine, it is becoming. Yes, medicine, big breakthrough is happening. The so-called generic medicines are going out of the way. So you will have personalized medicines. Absolutely personalized medicine, because each human being is different. Similarly, when you come to assessing people, each human being is different. So it is tough. But if you want to leverage the strength of that person, you must look at that person in an individual way, not put him in the broad brush. Yes, broad brush is a common thing, but it is much more difficult to look in an individual way. But if you are able to do it, I think we get fantastic results. That's all I can say.